For the majority of the past decade, shooting three-pointers was seen as a much better option than shooting long two-pointers. And there's certainly an underlying reason to this, since the rules have just really made the three-point shot too valuable. Just take a look at a guy like Stephen Curry who's been shooting around 43% from deep for his career. That's pretty much equivalent to someone shooting around 64% from two-point range. But obviously, unless you're a big man who only goes for dunks, you probably won't shoot with that kind of efficiency. And this is why over the past 10 years or so, it seemed like defenses didn't really worry about someone toasting them with a mid-range jumper. That is probably until this season when DeMar DeRozan started to show how good he can become while utilizing long two-point shots. In the middle of an MVP caliber season for the Chicago Bulls, after playing 60 regular season games, DeRozan is currently averaging 28.1 points per game, which is the 5th best mark in the NBA, while shooting a highly efficient 51.2% from the field. However, unlike most current MVP caliber stars, DeRozan has been attempting a massive 74.1% of his shots from the mid-range, which is easily the highest percentage of shots taken from that area this season. Overall, DeRozan's 9.5 mid-range attempts per game is the most in the NBA this year, and his 49.7% mid-range shooting clip is also the 5th best mark among all 19 players to attempt at least 4 mid-range shots per game. I think this is all particularly impressive considering this isn't some second option kind of guy that we're talking about. DeRozan is draining a massive volume of 2-point shots on 59.4 true shooting while being his team's best player and while actually sporting the league's 12th highest usage rate. But I think what even makes this more mind-blowing is that if you look at it, this season, only 7 other players aside from DeRozan have true shooting percentages above 59 while having usage rates that exceed 30%. These guys are Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Steph Curry, LeBron James, Trae Young, and Kevin Durant. Those guys are either big men with guard skills or guards with unlimited shooting range. But then there's DeRozan who combines volume and efficiency in his own way, and that is by torching defenses from within 15 feet of the basket. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, we'll look into how DeMar DeRozan is actually changing the narrative about the mid-range and what this really means for the Chicago Bulls playoff ceiling. Let's get to it. The truth is, we're probably witnessing the most prolific stretch of mid-range shot making in the NBA since that of Dirk Nowitzki during his championship season, as in 2010 to 2011, Nowitzki took 69% of his shots from the mid-range while draining 51% of those attempts, which numbers are strikingly similar to DeRozan's mid-range profile this season. But how did we really get here? Well, DeRozan has always been a good player, but before coming to Chicago, instead of being seen as a real MVP caliber superstar, he was seen as more of a floor raiser who was simply able to rescue dead possessions by manufacturing decent looks from around 15 feet of the basket. Cause while he's always taken the majority of his shots from the mid-range, he just wasn't accurate enough to constantly threaten defenses. During his 9 seasons in Toronto, his mid-range numbers were mostly in the mid-40s while his true shooting percentages were also in the low to mid-50s. However, beginning with his second season in San Antonio, his true shooting numbers skyrocketed to 60% for the first time in his career, which of course could be attributed to him getting to the rim more often. But the thing is, during that time, his mid-range numbers also exceeded 44% for the first time ever. This actually gave us a hint of how DeRozan was starting to find his shooting groove while being right in the middle of his prime. However, heading to Chicago as a 32-year-old veteran, a lot of people didn't believe that he could build on the mid-range efficiency that he has displayed over the past 2 seasons, citing things like his alleged bad fit with the Bulls or San Antonio's non-contender status. But right now, it seems like DeRozan has brought all his mid-range prowess to Chicago while taking it to even higher levels, as currently, for the first time ever, DeRozan is making almost 50% of all his mid-range attempts while also sporting the second highest true shooting percentage of his entire career. Plus, he has only ramped up his scoring efforts as of late, as since the beginning of February 2022, DeRozan has averaged 33 points per game, which is the 3rd best scoring mark in the NBA for that period, while his 61.1 true shooting percentage within that span of time also ranks in the 98th percentile of the entire NBA. Also, in a recent 8-game stretch in February wherein Chicago went 6-2, DeRozan set an NBA record by being the first player in history to score at least 35 points and shoot at least 50% from the field in 8 consecutive games. Within that stretch, DeRozan shot an insane 84.7% from the field, but what's even more mind-blowing is that within those 8 games, he only took a total of 13 3-point attempts, but he attempted 181 shots from inside the arc, which is out of this world considering this isn't some rim-running 7-footer we're talking about. DeRozan is a 6'6" wing who's using his mid-range abilities to score. This is why I think in the process, DeRozan has been the first player in a decade or so to actually challenge the conventional thinking about the value of the mid-range jump shot when compared to the 3-point shot. Well, sure, it might be safe to argue that high-volume 3-point shot creation is much more difficult and that manufacturing pull-up shots from within 15 to 18 feet could be easy for guys with good size, good handle, and great hops like DeRozan. While this could be true, but as we've talked about earlier, while the volume has always been there for him, it's not like DeRozan was already a mid-range master going 5 years back. I think he just got really better at what he does throughout the years, which is what made his mid-range attack so valuable, especially when used alongside a couple of other talented offensive players like Zach Lavine or Nikola Vucevic in Chicago. And to further understand how his output stacks among the rest of the NBA, it's worth noting that this season, after playing 60 regular season games, DeRozan has already made a total of 284 mid-range field goals, which is the most in the entire league. But diving deeper, you'd also see that there are only 3 other players so far who have made at least half as many mid-range shots as him at this point of the season. These guys are Brandon Ingram, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. But as you can see, the gap between DeRozan and Ingram, who's at second place, is just really wide. But I think what you also gotta love about DeRozan is that despite the sheer volume of long 2-pointers that he takes, he's not just a make or miss type of guy. Even when he misses some shots, he also draws a lot of fouls, which is mostly due to him having one of the best shot fakes in basketball. Right here, you can see the top 4 players with the highest frequency of mid-range shot attempts this season. DeRozan is right on top, but among these 4 players, he's also the one who gets fouled the most, as DeRozan is being fouled 17% of the time he's attempting a shot on the mid-range. This, in turn, also helps him increase his scoring output, as DeRozan also makes 86.6% of all his free throws on 7.8 attempts per game. As a result, the guy has been challenging what analytics has been telling us about mid-range attempts being the least efficient kinds of shots in basketball. And to be honest, at this point, how can you even question DeMar DeRozan's method of getting buckets when in fact, as the team's best player this season, he's led the Chicago Bulls to become a current top 4 team in the East and a top 4 offense in the entire NBA, despite the team having to play a lot of non-threatening offensive players due to the team dealing with injuries. This is also why, at this point, I think DeMar DeRozan's MVP case might even be a little bit undervalued. Well, here's the thing, in 10 of DeRozan's 12 seasons before coming to Chicago, his teams have even put up better plus-minus numbers with him sitting on the bench, which I think isn't necessarily due to the fact that DeRozan played bad, but mostly because his Toronto and San Antonio teams just had some really good bench players too. But still, these numbers don't necessarily make him look good either. This season though, DeRozan is currently posting the best on and off court difference he's had for his entire career and also the best net difference for Chicago, as the Bulls are a plus 4.7 with him on the court but are a minus 5.1 when he's on the bench. Basically, with him, the Bulls have the 3rd best offense in the NBA, but without him, they're playing like the Orlando Magic, which is the 3rd worst offensive team in the league. All in all, this is the value of DeRozan's mid-range game translating into wins amidst his own MVP caliber season. The only question I think is, would he be able to utilize the threat of his long 2-pointers in a 7-game playoff series? Well, we can't tell yet, but if recent history tells us something, it's that when defenses try to take away shots at the rim and from behind the arc during last year's NBA Finals, guys like Chris Middleton and Devin Booker were able to create chaos from the mid-range. For now though, what we know is that DeRozan's combination of mid-range volume and accuracy has already altered the status quo regarding how NBA defenses should work. And I think building around that is already a good starting point for the Chicago Bulls in terms of increasing their championship ceiling for the next couple of years. So thank you guys if you made it this far into the video, and where do you guys actually rank DeMar DeRozan among all MVP candidates this season? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, and also if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, or better yet, consider subscribing to the channel as well. Again, this is Reroll Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.